This is the pattern of reality itself, and it spells all success if you follow the laws of physics. You want to see the laws of physics all represented in a single image? Right there it is. Hey, wait, that's a toroid, but you can see how it's much more complicated than a donut, even though it is one. Hey, wait, that's a yin-yang. Yeah, when the scientists say that our whole universe may be inside a black hole, it means right there in the middle of the toroid. This is the laws of physics in an image. Because E equals mc squared, and the same laws of physics apply to everything no matter how small or large it is, though exactly how the laws of physics dictate an object exists, varies greatly depending on size and weight, and this has to be true considering the laws of physics themselves. For instance, these laws cannot use gravity to organize the information in something so tiny that gravity doesn't affect it much, so it uses electricity. Because of the laws of physics, gravity can't interact with something so small in the way that it can interact with something so large. And don't get me twisted, gravity is the phenomenon where objects bend the fabric of time and space based on how big they are and how much they weigh. But gravity helps organize information on the large scale. Electromagnetism helps organize information on the tiny scale. And it's the same laws of physics doing both. So is that the universal pattern for everything in reality? Yep, that's every object in reality right there. That is a representation of the entire universe. That is the representation of a galaxy. That's the representation of a star. That's the representation of a planet. That's the pattern of a man or a bacteria or an atom or a particle. The laws of physics organizing all the information according to the same laws, no matter what the scale, guarantees that every object in the universe is that right there. Well, humans don't look like that. Yes, they absolutely do. You just can't see very much. And I mean literally, we can only see a small amount of what's actually present in the situation at any given time. Not only is the human a toroid, even if its shape is not quite a donut, it is an eclair. Every organ inside that human body is also a toroid. Now, multi-hole toroids do exist. I'm not making that up. You put a bunch of toroids together into a larger structure, and it's a multi-hole toroid. So a human heart is a structure organized by the laws of physics into that right there. Well, it's not that shape. Well, not the part that we can see and hold in our hands, but when it's pumping, this process is exactly what it's doing. We can sum the toroid up as a process that brings information in, processes it, and spits out the waste. That's what the white hole does, brings information into the room. The black hole expels the waste. So that's a stomach right there. If it was a kitchen, your mouth seems to be the black hole in the kitchen, taking information out of reality. But if you're in the stomach, the mouth is the white hole bringing information into reality. Well, what are black holes then? Taking information out of, but there's a white hole on the other end of it. This equation flips depending on your perspective. If you're in the room, the black hole is your mouth, but if you're in the stomach, the mouth is the white hole. Because there's just one hole there, and it depends on which end you're on. The hole that sucks information out of reality is connected. It's the same hole as the one that brings information into reality. So it depends on where you are, which side of the hole you're observing. If you're in the kitchen, the mouth is the black hole. If you're in the stomach, the mouth is the white hole because it's the same hole, just depends on where you are and which side of it you're looking at. This is not complicated. If you're in the room, the mouth is the black hole, but if you're in the stomach, the other side of the black hole is the white hole. So it might be taking information out of the room, but it's bringing information into the body. And in this way, the same process that destroys a ham sandwich, birth, growth, entropy, death, you build the sandwich and then you destroy it. Entropy is what I'm invoking here. The same process, entropy, that destroys the sandwich is used in the stomach to reorganize that information. And by information, I mean food. And if you want to argue that food is not information, get out of here. I ain't got time. Reorganizes that information into mass for the body. I've said a whole bunch, but the laws of physics can be shown from the very beginning to be organizing the information into stable, complex structures more and more, so that time favors stability and complexity, even though entropy and death are required to build more complex systems, and this is eating a ham sandwich, same thing. In order to build more complex systems, you first have to disorganize some of the stuff that was built before. This is the same as the sun is in entropy releasing photons, but the plants are taking the photons and turning them into mass for their own body. The sun is disorganizing and losing its information. The plants are gathering that information and reorganizing it. And this is how the laws of physics build stable structures to build complex structures. And then they take those complex structures, which are themselves stable enough to do this, just stable enough, and organize them into even more complex structures. Just stable enough because they have to have some instability, because without entropy, you can't make something more complex. Out with the old, in with the new. The laws of physics can be summed up into a single pattern that repeats everywhere all the time. Birth, growth, entropy, and death. This is the same as spring, summer, fall, and winter. Entropy and death are absolutely required to build even more complex structures. The laws of physics are life cycles. Birth, growth, entropy, death. The information being organized into a stable structure that itself grows and then declines so that it can explode and die, so that it can be born again as either a black hole or a neutron star, the white hole or the black hole. We know that that's one hole there, connected by a tube. How do we know? It's right there. The laws of physics in a mathematical equation represented by an image. So when I say the structure, I'm not talking about the physical part that you can see and hold. I'm talking about the physical part you can't see but is surely required in the equation for this structure to exist at all. If that right there was not in the math, this right here is not here for you to see. So when I say black hole, I'm not only talking about supermassive astronomical units. I'm talking the part of the equation in the laws of physics that takes information out of any given system. Therefore, black hole is an idea that scales to all scales. It is that mechanism taking information out of the system that the structure is nested in. The white hole is in the math. It's any mechanism bringing information into a given system from the system that structure is nested in. This is not hard to scale the idea of white hole and black hole all the way down to quantum physics. The mechanism in every structure that brings information in and carries waste out. Rocks don't have black holes. They do have a mechanism whereby they radiate energy and lose it. They do have a mechanism whereby they can absorb energy or information from the environment. What is it? It's the laws of physics, man. You can't warm a rock up in the fire. Yes, you can. Well, that's just simple physics. That's what we're talking about here. Classical physics do not violate quantum mechanics. It's the same laws of physics on all levels. It's just that the mechanisms look different, but they are all inherent in the math and in the processes that any structure goes through. I'll say it again. The laws of physics are birth, growth, entropy, and death. You must be born again. This is observable. Because this process, which absolutely requires entropy and death, is what builds more complex structures from less complex structures. And the universe can be shown by the laws of physics to be organizing information into more and more complex structures, time favoring stability and complexity. Because this is the universe and everything in it. That's the laws of physics, mathematically represented in an image. And that's why I say everything is a toroid. Because toroid is the process the laws of physics puts absolutely everything through. Everything experiences birth, growth, entropy, death. You must be born again. As such, there's a supermassive black hole at the heart of every spiral galaxy. And elliptical galaxies are spiral galaxies that have either merged or collided or gotten real old. Galaxies that formed early in the process or have been interrupted in some way. I said entropy and death are part of the equation. Galaxies can be shown to go through it also. Wave function is a phenomenon that scales from the cosmological to the quantum. While not a physical wave on the quantum level, wave function can be visualized using sine wave from the classical physics. Wave function means a periodic oscillation. So even though sine wave is classical physics, and wave function is quantum physics, in quantum physics waves aren't physical, it is the same phenomenon, only scaled from the macro to the micro. The laws of physics using different methods to organizing energy on this level, but the same exact process scaled down. There's no reason not to understand this. It doesn't look exactly the same from classical to quantum, but it is the same phenomenon. But it happens in the same way. Look, trees don't have eyeballs, but they have photoreceptors and they can see, even if it's not with the same exact structure as this. The mechanism is the same in the math by what it accomplishes. Because the same laws of physics allow me and the tree to both see, but the tree has DNA that gives it different instructions on what its structure is supposed to look like, even if it's using the same process to build it. Every system has large wave functions built from smaller wave functions. Complexity is simplicity stacked.